Hello everyone, Roger Lugo right here with my first video response for our class Painting 704, Formal Aspects of Painting. Before I start, let me tell you something. This is the first time that I've done something like this. I've never recorded myself talking in front of the camera. I'm normally pretty comfortable talking in front of an audience and talking to people, but like I said, this is my first time, so hopefully I don't look or sound pretty weird. Another thing, I have two kids and also I have two dogs. And they normally bark at everything and anything that walks by them. So hopefully everything is gonna be good and you're not gonna be listening to any craziness happen while I talk. For my first video response, I'm going to talk about chapter 3 from the book How to Use Your Eyes by James Elkins. Chapter 3 deals with how to look at a painting, how to look at an oil painting specifically, and it is very interesting because when you look at a painting, you normally don't look for the cracks. You don't normally look for the things that make them odd. Actually, when you look at a painting, you kind of want to see the entire composition. You want to see the beauty of the painting. When you are in undergrad school, and actually in grad school, you're taught about how to look at a painting and looking for a specific things that make the painting great, such as composition, balance, movement, contrast, color, anything that will make the painting call the attention or get the attention for the viewer. But in this reading specifically, Elkins talk about looking for the cracks, looking a little bit deeper of what we normally look at an oil painting. And after reading and after understanding what pretty much he was trying to say, I feel now the cracks are like the DNA from the painting. In the past, I used to think cracks were just pretty much something negative. They were something like it was between the viewer and the real painting. I never liked to see paintings that they show that kind of crack or the crackline style, but it was just pretty much me being uneducated about it. Now after this reading, I learned that it's more than that. I mean, those cracks can tell you, it can tell the viewer about how old a painting can be, about how much damage or natural damage the painting have shown, and it can show you that if the painter used how many layers of paint, if they use some sort of varnish, or if it was done in the 17th or 18th century, if it was done in the 21st century. So it's kind of more like like a connection that actually you can have with the painting by not normally looking at the big thing, but also looking at the cracks and the marks. Pretty much like scars. I can see those right now as scars. When you look at people and you look at the scars, you're normally wondering about what happened to that person, or how did that scar got there. So now with those cracks in painting, I can actually feel more comfortable looking at paintings. When I was in undergrad school, I worked at a local museum, and pretty much I was the handler with me and other people that we were handling very expensive paintings. And one of the things that it was very uncomfortable for me, it wasn't the person telling us what to do or anything like that. It was more than we have to be so careful about handling the paintings. We were wearing white gloves. We were making sure that we were not sweating, because we were gonna get some sweat in the paints, some dirt, some grease from our bodies to the painting that later will create some sort of damage. And I never thought that something like that will affect a painting, but after the reading and after learning, after digging a little more, I understood that actually that can hurt a painting very much. Something that I learned from the reading is the crackline, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but the crackline not only tells you, you know, the age of the painting, but also you will understand what kind of damage the painting got. During the reading, we saw different images where it shows about what type of crack they are. They can be even, they can be large, they can be, you know, in many ways that they can be pretty close, they can be pretty wide. That will help. It will help you to understand what happened and why that kind of crack. If it was in a hard surface, if it was in a smooth surface, or something like that. On these images that we're going to look right now, we see how the patterns are totally different from each other. Some of them are caused by the process of aging, others because of the many layers of painting, the thickness of the oil, or just because of the varnish used, as this one right here. The cracks have a predominant directions. They're uniform, they can be curved, and they have a direction depending of the surface. As I was mentioning before, I think the cracks are some kind of a DNA for humans. You know, as you can see in this image, we see how the skin shows some kind of patterns the same way as cracks will show and on a painting. So here's the split between a face that can be considerably a young adult with an old person, and as you can see, the same way cracks they show the age of the person, you know, the wrinkles, and the skin can show pretty easily how old a person can be. So to conclude my first video and my response, I would like to say that now I see cracks are not only a thing for old paintings. They can create a very interesting styles and painting, and actually, or any surface. Actually, if you go right now to any art supply store, you're gonna see different materials and different mediums that will help you to create some sort of crack style. Actually, in classes before this one, we were supposed to create paintings that will simulate that cracking style. So thankfully for this reading, now I know the cracks are actually part of the painting. It can tell us a little bit more about the painting, and it's not something that it will get between the viewer and the painting. So it's part of the painting. So painters have always experimented with media, so it wasn't a secret, or it wasn't a shock for me to realize that nowadays people are trying to recreate something like that. So it will make something pretty all looks cool, for example, in furnitures. So I'm pretty glad that I had the chance to read this chapter and understand a little bit more about how to look an oil painting. I just want to thank you for taking your time and watching my first response. I think it was an interesting one for sure. So I cannot wait to see what you have to say about my intervention.